Hello everyone. Today is 28th of March. Now it's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is new episode of Headlines. Short summary of the news that I will talk about in my main news update for a day. Little bit late and of course news update initially will be available on my Patreon page and tomorrow morning by Moscow time on my YouTube and Rumble channels. And well, that's been said, probably you can recognize, of course you can recognize area that I am right now. It's Kremlin, of course, in the Moscow River, bank of the Moscow River. And well, I just finished recording first episode of new program, cities, streets of Moscow, and because I'm in capital, I decided to make headlines from here also, and I think I'm reporting from quite historical and important, nice place. And okay, let's start with the news now. And first headline from TASS news agency, according to which Russian armed forces destroyed yet another US-made M1A1 Abrams tank. This one is the fifth, I believe, fifth Abrams that was destroyed. All of them was lost by Kiev regime on Avdiivka direction in area of Berdichi village. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian partisans from Kharkov region shared information with RIA Novosti that as a result of yesterday's strikes of Russian aerospace forces on Kharkov region and Kharkov city itself, during the which FAB glide bombs were used, building was destroyed, building was targeted where mercenaries, Ukrainian military personnel and 10 foreign pilots were located. I guess those foreign fighters were NATO pilots that were conducting some training for Ukrainian militaries, and well, according to Russian partisans, at least 50 Ukrainian military personnel was killed during this strike, including saboteurs that were involved in recent attempts to cross border with the Russian Kursk and Belgorod regions. Also, dozens of mercenaries, and as I just said, 10 pilots from the NATO member states. Also, Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that Kiev regime is now heavily invested in building defense lines in Sumy, Chernigov and Kharkov regions, in Kiev region also, and according to Financial Times, that also reported on this matter, Kiev regime is actually using methods of building of these defense lines that was observed in Zaporozhye and South Donetsk sectors during this so-called spring-summer offensive of Kiev regime. And they are trying to copy now Russian defense lines, although I don't think they will succeed much, because Russian side had support of Air Force to repel Ukrainian this so-called counteroffensive, while Kiev regime definitely are unable to use Air Force in the same way as Russian side did. So these defense lines are just a waste of time. Best decision Ukrainian armed forces can make is to lay down arms really and stop obeying orders from criminals and mass murderers in the Kiev regime. Also, by the way, Vzгляд newspaper is reporting on huge casualties among Ukrainian military personnel on Avdiivka direction. Also, RIA Novosti's report that Foreign Ministry of Sweden confirmed the information that the Ukrainian embassy is actively recruiting people in Sweden to participate in military operations on behalf of Kiev regime. Basically, recruiting of mercenaries is conducted in open by Ukrainian embassies, not just in Sweden, but I believe in every other country. Also, by the way, Vladimir Putin, President of Russian Federation, made very important statements. He commented on the topic of F-16s that are promised to Kiev regime, and he said that those F-16s, if they will be delivered to Kiev regime, will be destroyed as any other aircraft in Kiev regime's inventory. And he also said, by the way, which is very important, that if those F-16s will operate from other countries, those countries will become a legitimate target. Airfields from which these F-16s will operate will become a legitimate target. Very strong statement, and one more warning from Moscow to NATO member states. And Putin also spoke about this nonsense that is pushed by Western ruling elites and Western media, that after Ukraine, Russia gonna conduct military operations against NATO member states, and he called this hysteria in the West total nonsense, because that's what this really is, nonsense. I don't think anybody in Russia really thinks that after Ukraine, Russia will start war with some NATO member state. This is nonsense, by the way, it's insane. But as I said many times before, Western ruling elites are using this topic, this scaremongering tactic, that Russia gonna attack today, tomorrow, or day after, to basically scare as much as possible their own citizens, and then use taxpayers' money as they wish, and that's exactly what they are doing, by the way. Also, Russian ambassador in France made a statement that between two sides there is no talks about ceasefire during the Olympic Games, which should take place in France this summer. And as you remember, as you know, recently Macron stated that he will ask Moscow for ceasefire in Ukraine during the Olympic Games. Although, by the way, Russia is not part of that Olympic Games. Russian athletes cannot participate under Russian flag as a team of Russia, and therefore I don't think Moscow cares that much about that so-called Olympics, by the way, which is no longer, in my personal opinion, no longer can be called the Olympic Games, really. It's anything but. Also interesting news that Poland probes a general who trained Ukrainians. Interesting. Just yesterday, day before, there was reports that Polish general died in untold circumstances. Many media outlets are reporting that Polish general most likely was killed in Chasov Yar during the recent Russian strike there. And now this information that Polish general, another one, is seems like under investigation of Polish government or security services. Let's see what will come out from this story finally. But it is interesting that this general was involved in training of Ukrainian forces. Also, TASS News Agency's report that according to New York Times, US did not share with Russia all the information that they had about a terrorist attack on Moscow. Well, seems like secret services of US had some information, some precise information about plans of terrorists, maybe from Ukraine, and they did not share this information, not to disclose their sources. That was reasoning according to New York Times, and of course, this is if true, this is definitely very unfortunate, because countries, even during their lowest point in their relationships, should always share information about any threats from terrorists. Unfortunately, U.S. is acting as a rogue state at this point. U.S. government is acting as some rogue group of people, and that's a result. They are unwilling to share crucial information and save civilian lives. Very unfortunate. And Peskov, by the way, press spokesman of Russian President Dmitry Peskov, commented on a topic of a U.S. reaction on this terrorist attack in Crocus City Hall, and Peskov said that U.S. From the first hours basically started to divert attention from other possible scenarios, while calling ISIS as a only side that conducted that terrorist attack. At this point, after high-ranking Russian officials made statements that most likely Ukraine was involved in planning of that terrorist attack, at this point, I guess majority of world community thinks exactly the same way, and I believe in upcoming days and weeks, Russian security services will provide factual evidences to prove that Kiev regime was involved in organizing this terrorist attack. And finally, I will end this short video with the information that, according to Reuters, Western businesses that left Russia combined lost about $107 billion US dollars in revenues, which is quite huge, of course, and it is definitely not surprising that many Western companies are still operating in Russia and are trying their best to maintain themselves, their businesses here, because Russia is a crucial market for them. So this is it, by the way, for this short video. In several hours time, with some additional news, I will record and upload on my Patreon today's main update, which, as I said initially, will be published on my Patreon, and tomorrow morning on my YouTube and Rumble channels. If you want to see my main news updates a little earlier, please consider to subscribe to my Patreon page. That will be a great support of my work and my small media project, of course. And well, if you think this channel is interesting, useful, and deserves to exist, please consider to support also by PayPal or Boosty. You can see all the links in the description box. And finally, well, if you find this short video somewhat informative and interesting, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. More likes and comments will definitely help to deal with the algorithms on both platforms, YouTube and Rumble, and will allow me to reach wider audience. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.